Get ready with me for date night with this individual. Yes, I'm headed out to an evening with Chris Collins, the luxury fragrance founder. And of course, I am running out of time, but I did take a moment to film the highlights from this look. I know you're going to especially love the Get Ready With Me for this look because, believe it or not, the entire look is primarily one product, that is bronzer.
Keep on talking to me, but I just wanna see you move.
I'm going to have to move a little swiftly because the clock is ticking, but these professional tips and tricks are going to really help you in real life. My intention was to be a little early. I'm not sure quite what to expect. Waiting for my hostess to get back to me on what the atmosphere will be, how much filming will be permitted, because that will determine which type of camera I bring or whether I just bring my phone set up. I suspect this won't quite be the type of event where I can really get in a couple of interview questions, which is what I would really love to do for you all. But if not at this event, certainly at a time in the future. We've already started with brows. There are several types of brow products that I love, but really Benefit is taking the crown right now. My favorite combo has been the Precisely My Brow Detailer, which is their ultra fine tip, and the Mighty Fine Brow Pen. Definitely check them out, go in store and play with them. I've been loving the design and the quality. I've also already done skincare and I've already done my skin prep, which is going to be simple but really beautiful. And I am sad to say I am down to my last drop of my Gucci Mist. It is hydrating and moisturizing. It's a dual phase product. Shake it up to get the most effective application. If you're anything like me, in my imagination, I am going to take my time getting ready. I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to take about an hour. I'm going to give myself the professional treatment that I give so many others. And inevitably, I end up with 11 minutes to get ready. So because of that, I just have to reach for a bulletproof foundation that I know is going to be gorgeous, sit beautifully on the skin, be beautiful in person, but give you that perfection and also hold up in photography, because I'm sure there'll be a few pictures and a little video. And that's going to be my Estee Lauder Double Wear. I'm going to start the application with a small fluffy brush. This is actually a Sonia G Blender Pro brush, but it's also perfect for that airbrush like application. This is a makeup that I want to look effortless, so I really want the skin to be really perfected and pretty, but I don't want it to look heavy in person. So the way to best get that effect is to do a really strategic, light, airy application. I'm really going to start in the areas that I want to unify or even out into the rest of the complexion. It's really not about putting a mask of foundation on. Application also gives you a lot of control over your look. Next brush is going to be also Sonia G. This is going to be the base brush. As you can see, it has this beautiful fan shape, but it's also plush and soft, gives you beautiful coverage. I've already merged the foundation with the brush, so it's nice and even on the brush, which will give me a more airy application. And again, that helps it to look light. It helps the skin to look perfected, but still skin-like. I'm going to add a bit more coverage on the outskirts of the face so that everything is nice and seamless. Now, if you are a returning viewer, you are probably like, Crystal, what's the setup? Where are you? What's going on? This is not your usual setup. And you're absolutely right. I am actually on the go and I'm in a studio getting a little brand work done here in this studio. And I'm so happy the timing worked out, because if you don't know, I travel a bit for the beauty side of what I do, and I'm often missing events. If the event is in the Northeast, I'm in the Southeast, and if the event is in the Southeast, I just happen to be in the Northeast. So finally, everything aligned to where I'm actually in the city where Chris Collins is going to be, and I am so excited to meet Chris Collins and hear about the brand from the brand's founder. You know, it's nothing like the individual who created it to learn from. I am very familiar with the brand as far as information, but this will be my first time actually experiencing the fragrances for myself. I have it on good authority that there are several that are absolutely beautiful. And it's really nice to be invited to this because as a beauty industry pro, my primary work, as you know, is in commercial and advertising on the makeup and hair side of things, but I have a lot of fragrance knowledge and a lot of fragrance passion, and I've been sharing that a little over the last, I say, 5 years or so on this channel. Had I known people who would love it so much, I would have shared a lot more a lot sooner. But I am loving the fragrance side of things, and I like, whenever I'm interested in something, I like to learn beyond the surface. So I want to know more besides it just smells good or it smells like fruit or things like that. I love learning about the inspiration, the art, the science, the industry, the business. And so in addition to the fabulosity of fragrance, and I think the importance of it to your image, I want to share more unique detail. And I think with my savvy audience that I tend to attract, you really love that too. I want to add a bit more perfection under the eye and also a subtle lift and highlight. I'm going to use the Teint Idole Ultra Wear. This one is the camouflage. I don't hear a lot of people talk about this, but I absolutely love this formula. And I'm also using a soft blender brush. Use a light touch and a soft dabbing motion because you're not trying to move or remove what you've already applied. So when I'm actually done applying the complexion, I'll come in with a damp beauty blender and I am going to soften where the concealer highlighter meets the foundation. I'm going to soften that so it's seamless. So when your dreams of having an hour and a half to get ready do not come to pass like mine, you need a quick, easy look, but you still want it to look polished, a bit elevated. And so that's where these eyes come in, and this is, I think, the most fun part for you because this is going to be done basically with one product. We're going to lay a bit of a foundation for it, but it's going to be so easy. So this is Pat McGrath's Permagel pencil in black coffee. It's a really beautiful blackened brown, and so I've started lining the upper and lower lash line, and then I'm going to smoke out that product a bit. This sets beautifully and stays in place, but you do have a little working time. If you have trouble applying liner, instead of trying to do one long line, try to sort of think about connecting the dots and doing short lines across the eye. While that pencil is still movable, I'm going to take a smaller brush and I am going to smoke out. The bronzer we're using today is by MAC. The shade is Matte Deep Rosy. You want something deep enough to show up on your complexion, and I'm going to take a firmer eyeshadow brush and start buffing that into the eyes. One of the advantages to this being a bronzer is that bronzers are formulated for the face. So it's going to be a thin, seamless, skin-like formula. So it's going to add that beautiful smoky haze of color that gives your eyes warmth and definition, but it's not going to look heavy. And make sure you have a small enough brush so that you can also smoke it out on the lower lash line. Finishing touches on the eye, Pat McGrath's Extreme Black Eyeliner. Even with looks like this, when you're doing that smoky chocolate, I think it's always good to enhance the natural lash line with a black. And I popped on a super natural lash by Ardell, one of their foaming styles that I've really been loving. I'm going to finish top and bottom lashes with Pat McGrath's Dark Star. Another thing I love besides the coverage and the finish of both the Estee Lauder Double Wear and the Lancome Teint Idole Concealer is that they are kind of self-setting, which means if you give them a couple of minutes, they settle and they kind of semi-set and dry on their own, even without powder. That's particularly important to me, and I will talk about that more when I get to the powder step. Today we're not doing blush, but of course we're going to accentuate the rest of the face and add a little dimension and some interest to the face, and we're going to do that with the exact same MAC bronzer. You're applying your bronzer, take into consideration your face shape and the placement that you want that particular day, and that will kind of determine the size of your brush. You don't want to disperse too much product and look too intense or too muddy. For this, I want both a subtle blushing and a subtle bronzing effect. Again, I do want to accentuate the tops of the cheeks and a bit of the apples or the fleshy part of the cheek. I am going to work it out into the temples, and it's going to give a beautiful, warm, bronzy shape to the face. And I've already started taking a nice, big, airy brush with no product on it, and I'm going to buff gently because you don't want to lift the makeup from beneath. So it's nice and seamless. Techniques and looks like this will be pretty to the eye in person, but it will also hold up on camera because honestly, the camera likes makeup. So you do need to bump it up a bit, or the features do tend to flatten and disappear. For events like this, in my case, where you need to kind of meet in the middle, this is a beautiful look. If this was strictly out with friends, I probably wouldn't bother to powder at all, but the camera also likes powder. What can appear like a lot of powder in person looks absolutely smooth and flawless on camera. But I don't want the look to look heavy in person. However, I do need to powder, so I'm going to use as little as possible, especially near the under eye area, because no matter how young you are, whether you are 10 or 100, powder is designed to be drying. They try to make it as skin friendly as possible and conditioning, but ultimately powder is designed to set liquids and creams. So powders are going to have a measure of drying properties. And so that's always a consideration for the under eye. You want it to look smooth, even, perfect. But as you know, we don't do the crinkle cut potato chip under eye over here. So for that, I actually have a very beautiful powder that is going to give us the mattification that we need, but it's so air spun and light that it's weightless on the skin and it doesn't look like texture in person. And that is actually the Dior Cushion Powder. And I'm using it with my Beauty Blender Puff. And I'm really focusing on areas that absolutely need the powder. So these are areas that tend to look shiny in person and on camera. My time is fading fast, so let's get these lips on. Sometimes it might be your natural inclination to not get foundation on your lips, but go ahead and get a little bit. I find that it adds a nice, smooth, even canvas. The lip pencil is by MAC. It's called Auburn, which is the perfect name for it. It's really important to blend and perfect. And the lipstick today is the gorgeous and perfect for spring and summer Vegas Vault by MAC. It's highly complimented too. Of course, you can apply your lipstick directly from the bullet, but you would be surprised at what a lip brush, the beautiful effect it will give. And that is it, pretty people. An easy, breezy, bronzy date night look for my date with Chris Collins and about 75 other people probably. Now the plan is, time permitting, to pop back into the studio and let you know my thoughts, my first impressions of the fragrances, and share the event highlight. And as promised, I am back. And let me tell you, this evening and the event really exceeded my expectations. Imagine a room filled with fabulous fragrance lovers and this really elevated but warm and inviting vibe, poppin' music, tasty cocktails, an elevated vibe, and even more elevated fragrances. I expected them to be beautiful, but I did not expect to want to wear so many of them. And many of them fall into my style. I had an opportunity to speak with Chris and kind of get his advice on what would suit me. And one of the things I said to him and say to many people is that I like fragrances with a little ta-da. I like it spicy, woody. I love incense, but I also do always love a touch of sweetness. I love a floral or a fruity fragrance, but I do like like them to have a little fire about them. If you're brand new to the world of Chris Collins, the brand was started about 2018 and it has this really high-end cosmopolitan inspiration, and the brand is very opulent. So imagine if the Met Gala was sponsored by just one fragrance brand, it would be the world of Chris Collins. Let's talk about the fragrances. Start with the first one. This one is Lost in Paradise. It's a solar floral. It has that tropical coconut vibe. It's this big, beautiful burst of tropical coconut. You get the coconut water, that beautiful buttery yellow floral of the ylang ylang, but also a salted musk and a touch of peach skin. So it's summery, tropical, but it's elevated and elegant. The next one is Lust Oud de Lis. This is a rich, almost a touch smoky in my opinion, dark chocolate. It has that growl oud hazelnut. This is very sensual, very magnetic. I would definitely say more evening. I like that the chocolate aspect of it is more like a warm, spicy cocoa. It's not overly literal. Now, this next one was a huge surprise. It was the first one I reached for, and I almost didn't try this one because I assumed it would be too masculine. But there's a story behind it that Chris Collins shared with me that has convinced me that it was just about made for me. That fragrance is the King Maker. One of the main features of King Maker is this very powerful true oud. It is woody and it is animalic, but it also has these spicy facets and it is a touch sweetened. There's cardamom, there's this heart of a rich rose, and an earthy patchouli. It's more unisex than you might think, especially for a woman that's a bit daring. When I looked at the description on his site, it says that it does draw inspiration from the masculine and the feminine. And when I told Chris, I was surprised at how much I liked it. He shared with me this story. I won't go into too much detail, but long story short, if you have seen that movie The Wife, Glenn Close has this really pivotal line. Remember, the name of the fragrance is the King Maker. And on the site, it asks the question, who really exerts the most influence, the king or his queen? A full bottle of this next one must become mine. The Long Kiss Goodnight. I am in love with this, and the notes are pink saffron, passion fruit, which is where I think I was getting that tasty but tart. There's coffee bean, frankincense. I love incense. There's rose, but also oud and vanilla. Beautiful balance between bold and alluring. The next one is extremely popular, and I've heard quite a bit about this, and I've heard some rave reviews from some reliable sources, and that's African Rooibos. It's a beautiful tea fragrance. I love it, and I love the journey it takes you on. I'm also excited about adding this to my collection because I had a tea fragrance that I really love that I've shared here before called Cactus Flower, and that was by Louis Vuitton, but it was discontinued. This I love as much, and actually a bit more, because this one is a bit more complex. It blooms and develops. It's spicy, a touch herbal, but rich, woody, and a touch sweet. So it has cardamom, black pepper, that Rooibos tea accord. There's Immortelle. That's a note I really discovered that I loved in Amouage Interlude Woman. And Immortelle has this distinct sort of air spun, sweetened hay-like quality. This is a warm, alluring scent, the kind of fragrance that will get your neck nuzzled. As someone who trained to dance and still loves to dance, I love the inspiration behind this next one. This is Danse Sauvage. It is inspired by the magnificent Josephine Baker. Fiery, but it also has a sweetness. There's cognac, plum, saffron. It's spicy, and I think that may be coming from the chili. It has this rose rose heart and this delicious touch of vanilla. And then the last one I tried, I initially thought was nice. The more it developed, the more I fell in love with it. It's Vide Cormeum. Some of you may recognize that. It's Latin for see my heart. Initially got a fresh, almost slightly fougere leaning fragrance, so something a touch more masculine. But then the fragrance developed to a subtly sweetened woody fragrance. I looked at the notes, I saw it listed bergamot and thyme, and perhaps that was that fresh opening I was getting. But then it has a couple of notes that I really love in fragrance, rose and incense. But then it's followed by benzoin, which has that ambery, woody, sweetened quality. I'm not sure I would wear it, but I say the gentleman would really wear this one well. And I think it's a nice all occasion fragrance. I think it would be magnetic by day and attractive by night. I know I have some really savvy fragrance lovers out there, so let me know if you've already tried or even own some of Chris Collins' fragrances and if any of these caught your eye. I look forward to seeing you in the very next video, but until we meet again, keep it pretty.
Dreams, you keep on talking to me, but I just wanna